Hey, everybody. I'm Liz Larson, and I'm here with Bill McKenna. Hey, Bill.
Hi.
And we are the co creators of the Cogno Movement system and the hosts of the New Life Perspectives radio show as well. And as usual, Bill and I are always having interesting conversations every day, and we want to bring you in on those a lot of times. And we're talking about our stories, about people in our lives, or about our lives ourselves, and which part of them we focus on. We had a recent event a few months back where three people in that event went from a horrific relationship with one parent, horrific, to nearly best friends all immediately. They left the event, but before they left the event, during the event, they got phone calls or they got messages from this parent, singing their praises. And then when they get home, now they're having a great time together, loving and laughing. Well, which part of that story was true? Before it was that the parent was evil, horrible, out to get them. And then after the story was, hey, this person is amazing. We have a lot in common. So one of the things is that your nervous system focuses on one part and not the other. And as we were sharing it, Bill said, oh my gosh, I have this story myself. So will you share everybody that, Bill?
Yeah. Well, gosh, um, so I spent whatever it was, half a century, kind of a sullen, angry, resentful kind of person. And I was able to figure out that my dad, a lot of it centered around my feelings towards my dad. And ended up forgiving him, which led to kind of this very intense spiritual awakening. Well, ended up writing a book about it. It's called The Only Lesson. And in that book, I just, took people on the journey of, hey, well, what do you mean resentful? Why would you be resentful? And so I told my story of, emotional and physical abuse, and he was a alcoholic and was diagnosed with 3 different mental illnesses. So I, as I like to call it, it was a traditional Irish Catholic upbringing where, the beatings and abuse, types things go on. But the book was published in 2011, but my story actually changed. The story changed afterwards. I had forgiven my father, but I still had the story of my life as a kind of the hero's journey of coming up from a rough upbringing. And I eventually, afterwards, after that book was published, I had an epiphany. And the epiphany was that I was very privileged. I went to a Catholic grammar school, high school, 2 colleges. I got horseback riding lessons. He had sent me away to a summer camp for a month, which was glorious. I mean, we're talking, it had for a little boy, rifle range, archery range, horseback riding, a pool. I was in the junior lifeguard program. I was doing all kinds of activities. I had all kinds of liberty. My friends, where we lived, there was canyons, and we would have mud ball fights and light off firecrackers and M80s and doing things that little boys just love doing, right? That's a good day. We had wonderful meals, at Christmas, and huge, huge Christmases with tons of presents. And every holiday my mom had prepared, it's like the roast beast, everything was, huge, wonderful meals. And so all of a sudden, I began to see a new reality, a different story. And that story was one where I was actually given incredible amounts of privilege and latitude and liberties and opportunities. And with that, wonderful teachers of all kinds, everything from academic to martial arts, and eventually all of that leading to amazing spiritual teachers that showed up. So incredible privilege in my life that I had gotten to experience all this. And this story of privilege and my father providing it all is equally true. And I can focus on either one. It just so turned out that automatically, without really trying, I was able to see a different truth and to focus on that. And with that, a sense of gratitude, a love and a gratitude, like so many things, and seeing the humor in it all. I would call it the screen, like if you looked at, two pictures on a computer screen, and one is minimized and the other's maximized for you to look at. My picture, the maximized picture of a privileged life, a wonderful life, got maximized, and the other one just shrunk and shrunk and shrunk and shrunk till I can't barely even see it. It didn't have value anymore. And what we do is we value, right? We value our pain. I valued my story so much, right? I'm the tortured soul who rose up, right? And I'm going to hold you accountable. It no longer was profitable or needed.
Well, and you had a tremendous advantage. First, I want to point out Bill McKenna is not an only child who had all kinds of things showered on him. He's one of 12. So your parents had to really work, I'm sure, and focus on getting you to all those wonderful things that you had, summer camps and school and clothes. It wouldn't have been an easy feat. It had to have been something that they focused on, that they found important. The other part of the story is, yeah, your dad had those issues and he did some things that weren't great, but you also had the most wonderful mother, beautiful, wonderful soul. So why then did Bill McKenna's system, why did his mind, why did his body focus and put so much attention on the one aspect of life that was difficult? We don't want to minimize it. Those things were difficult that he lived through. But there's a really functional physical reason. There's a reason that our body values our trauma over our joy. And it's simply this. We're set up from conception, our limbic system starts building, and it's the part of the body that assesses threat, things that are dangerous to us. And that part of the body is set up to keep us safe and alive. And it starts learning in the womb what is dangerous or scary, loud noises, a mother shouting, some kind of, if the mother's scared, she gets flooded with adrenaline. When it's born, the baby also is continuing to learn what's frightening and what's not. And the nervous system, led by the limbic system, focuses on what's a problem, what's a threat. It's automatic, and it's a really good system when there's a lion in the room, or to teach you not to touch the stove again and again. But as you get older, the bad things that happen in life tend to take front and center stage. Even though, like in Bill's story, he had so many other wonderful things that could be equally or even more important in life, except for then the nervous system keeps you held in the problem. And so many of us really associate ourselves with the biggest trauma in our life, not the biggest joy. But the advantage that Bill has is a tool called Cognomovement that helps you let your nervous system shift its focus and attention. You know how, Bill, you were saying that one screen was minimized and the other screen was maximized? Well, that's done as an automated response. Now your nervous system focuses right on all those amazing things that happen in your life. And you know that the bad things happened, but it's really more like a book on the shelf. You know it's there. You could pick it up and look at it if you want to, but who wants to pick up the book that they hate the most, the book that really is unhappy for them, and read it day to day? You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't pick up the book that you hate the most and read it every day, or pull the movie that you hate the most out of the set of movies and watch it again and again. But we do that with our old stories. Cognomovement allows that to be relegated to just one of the many stories, and allows this system, because we program it in, to really give its attention where there's juicy love, joy, excitement. And the truth is, Bill, for you and for all of us, those wonderful experiences you've had really did help you become who you are today.
Yes, that too. And I love the way that you put that, Liz. Are you reading the book that you hate the most? And I think that's basically what I did. I just read the book that I absolutely hated over and over and over. I was reciting chapter and verse from the book that I hated. And so I was able to actually pull out a different book and start reading that.
And it's so valuable for so many reasons. For one, it frees you from associating yourself with only that part of who your dad was. But it also allows you to honor the good things that he did.
Yes.
You have 12 siblings. Many of them are very, very successful in life, have good families, they've stayed out of jail, I think, at least for the most part. That takes really good parents. And no person is perfect. We're all flawed. And who wants the worst part of themselves focused on? I know I don't. I'm sure you don't as well. And anyone listening, you don't want anybody taking your worst trait and putting it front and center. So when we collapse these things in ourselves, your body no longer has that immediate response, negative response, that feeling, that tightness in the chest and the gut and the head, and then the chronic thought that turns into anxiety. When we no longer have that, we're able to focus and honor people who really do deserve that as well. And that helps us to also focus on the genuinely good parts of ourselves. There's real value in switching the value of a story. You can value the beautiful parts far more than you value the trauma. I'll share something about myself. Last year, if you were to add up the years of life, could have been one of the worst of mine. My dad was dying of Alzheimer's. My mom had Parkinson's. They both died 35 days apart, and our family was horrendously sick. It was like 4 months of just hell. Now, I could have really grieved this whole year. I could have really put my attention on poor me and how awful that was. But because we have this tool of Cognomovement, I was able to not have my body have that automated response. I chose to shift to, when I think of my folks, I think of these amazing people that they were. I automatically am filled with instant joy. Now, there are moments throughout the year I think, oh gosh, at this time of year, I would have made this for them, or we would have done that together. And there's this little touch of sad, but that's not that tremendous, overwhelming pattern of grief where my body hurts. I really am free to enjoy and love everything about them, which I feel honors them the most. And that's a choice a person can make when you know how to change the automated response in the body. You can actually choose to make that joyful part the thing that stands out, like Bill said, minimize one screen and maximize the other.
You come up with so many great gems. The focusing on the good in another. There's not 100% bad or 100% good in anyone. And when we choose to see the good in another, and it's a choice, and it's a skill as well, when we do this, what karmically happens is it becomes available for other people to see that in us. There's an amazing thing that they talk about in school, regarding presenting. And it's this amazing neurological function when you speak highly of another, that people who are listening think that about you. It's instant karma. It's instant karma. And finding that authentic thing, whatever that is, if you can't think of anything, look at their shoes. They have a nice pair of shoes. They got good taste. You'll find something. You'll find something if you keep looking.
Well, it brings me to a couple of clients that you worked with and I worked some all at the same time. It always happens this way, where the person was talking about how they valued their crazy negative stories. Oh my God, you're not going to believe what happened to me this week. It was this and it was that, and I fell down. And so one of our clients was telling us they got bit by a dog. And then that was a story they could tell about how dramatic going to the hospital was, and how they realized, because now they have Cognomovement as well, that, oh my God, I'm focusing on all these tragedies and I sort of love telling the story, right? Our stories feel juicier when they're negative, when they feel like gossip, when, oh my gosh, listen to this horrible thing. When you collapse that in your system and it no longer has that great charge that it had before, but now what has the charge is these wonderful stories that you tell, you automatically have that wonderful feeling about you even more. It translates exactly like you said, Bill, into, you said good karma. I'm going to say self-love, which can be a dirty word for a lot of people. But when you have a glowing story or funny, something wonderful that you can share about someone in your life, exactly like you said, Bill, it does shed that light back on you. It instantly tells people, this is what I value. I value people who are wonderful and funny and loving and silly, maybe giving and joyful. And you appear about all those things yourself, and you actually do feel it for yourself. So there's really some amazing value in trading in where what you value in your life and your stories, right? Which part of the story you focus on. Now, I want to say that this is not an easy thing. If you've always hated your mother and she's the villain in your story, it's not that easy to flip-flop, because it's not logical. Well, I don't like her. I can't find anything about her. And I'm going to have to trade that in for what? What do I get? Good question, right? What do I get? Mm-hmm. With Cognomovement, though, The understanding that that is a neurological pattern that keeps you from seeing any other story. We know that you can collapse that. You can rid your body of that automated response, and then you're free to see maybe the truth of the situation, right?
Yes. And that truth is something that you don't even have to work at. Once this other feeling, and it is a feeling in your body, actually goes away through Cognomovement, a new truth becomes available to you without even trying. And that is kind of like where Liz had started this recording here for everyone. And the stories of all these people, how their relationships were instantly repaired. It all happened inside one person. In this particular case, it was the actual child. And then this wonderful relationship emerged with their parent.
And I'm going to take it one more level. Are you ready for this, Bill McKenna? Really, when a person is able to let go of that kind of a story, and I don't mean logically, and I don't mean letting somebody off the hook. I mean just having your system no longer having an automated negative response to that situation. And now your body and your mind are free to focus on something much more lovely. Your consciousness level goes up. So in so many of these cases, we're talking about guilt and blame. It was you, Bill, you were in guilt and blame with your dad. He had those issues, he had those problems, and your life was panning out a certain way. The minute you had the awareness, and it was long before Cognomovement, even just the awareness that maybe you needed to let that part of your life go, and that was just the first step, your life began to change, and you went on this wonderful journey of gaining all kinds of skills and perspectives and inspiration that led to Cognomovement. Before, where you were held in that guilt and blame, you could have never achieved what you did now with Cognomovement. That's a low level of energy. On the Hawkins scale, David Hawkins, if you know him, he assigned energy to certain emotions. Guilt and blame is way, way down on the scale. It literally sucks the life out of a person. When you release it, when it's gone and you're able to just let your body thrive and feel good about what's happening in your life now, and maybe just not even think about that person anymore, your consciousness level jumps, sometimes 100 points. And now you're filled with energy, and your life equals that new energy. So we ask the question, what do you get out of it? What do you get when you trade in your negative story for one that's maybe more neutral or positive? You literally get a burst of energy. You get a new life. Wouldn't you say that, Bill? You experienced it.
Yeah. There's a whole litany of changes that organically happen when you are able to release your old point of view, your guilt, your fear, your shame, your grief, your anger, your worry, your anxiety, all of those things. Once released, what happens is that your optimism emerges naturally. You'll find yourself easily forgiving and seeing the benefits to it. You'll find yourself even involuntary begin to have a feeling of love for you, or feeling good about you, accepting you. And with this, synchronicities and coincidences begin to emerge in your life. This is a natural thing that happens. Everything speeds up. When you think of things that you want, they show up. Instead of having to work hard at it, time seems to dilate, and you end up, you think it, and then they all of a sudden the right people start showing up, that sort of thing. There's a myriad of different of different things that I would have never believed until it actually happened to me. And then eventually, with our work with Cognomovement, now we see it as basically it's almost like mathematics. If somebody does it, it's like a mathematical formula, right?
Yeah.
It's like, do this and you're going to get that.
Yeah. And I have to say, it's not a process for wimps. You have to be willing to go into the process. Not that you have to be willing to, do the F word, which I call forgiveness for a lot of people. That's a logical mind issue. It's really what your body is, your nervous system is focusing its attention on the threat. When that can be collapsed, and if you're willing to at least do that, at least get to neutral on the biggest problem or the worst person in your life, if you're willing to do that and enter the process, the side effect is of the F word, what feels like forgiveness, or at least compassion, maybe understanding, maybe even just the ability to not have that person running around in your thoughts, creating anxiety 24/7. Maybe to just have them relegated back to that book on the shelf, like we were talking about. But what comes with it is a natural self-esteem. If you're a person who doesn't have self-esteem, look at what story in your life is where you're the victim of it. No matter how victimized you feel by it, if you can collapse that automated sensation in your body, just don't feel that way about it anymore, get to neutral, or, feeling like, okay, it's an old story. Your self-esteem will immediately pop up. Your self-love will be there. That's the ticket. That's the mathematical equation. That's what you get. And like Bill said, all of a sudden, everything opens up in your life. For many people, it's psychic abilities, and that's what they want. All of a sudden, all of the energy is flowing and open to where they just naturally have these abilities. Healing abilities show up. Money shows up. New careers show up. This single thing in a person's life can be the thing that is constricting or strangling your thriving in every area of life. New relationships show up, even with the person you thought you hated the most. Sometimes that becomes the most amazing and rich relationship. Sometimes it allows you to have a new relationship, a love relationship that just walks into your life because now your heart's open for it. So if you got the guts to kind of confront that relationship in the first place with something like Cognomovement, a tool that literally changes the way your body reacts to that situation, what comes out of it could be literally a brand new life.
That, Liz Larson, is what it's all about.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I love this talk. Thank you, Liz, for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for doing it with me, Bill. It's such an important thing, and it's so much fun in a way to think about what else in your life can you change that might be restricting you unconsciously. So if you're hearing our voices and this sounds like, hey, I want some of that, I want on that train, go to cognomovement.com, upcoming events, and see what events there fit your particular situation that will help you change. One of the big ones is Cogno Conscious. It just happens once or twice a year. It's a really, really limited event, but it is one of those things that gets things out at the roots. It's 4 days. And if you're a person who's like, I am ready to literally have my energy back, and I want that brand new shiny life that you talked about, that's the event, because it does hit all of these points. You just can't help it. You clear out all of those terrible old stories that you gather with you and read again and again every day, and literally helps you write a brand new story. What really happens is it's not that your old story wasn't true, but a brand new truth and perspective emerges. It's like somebody takes the blinders off and you see what really is possible in your experience. So that would be the one that I would recommend. What would you recommend, Bill?
This is something that if you're inclined, I would say contact one of the practitioners for a first session.
Good one.
Or if you don't have the basic training, just get the basic training and begin there. So wherever you're at, there's something for you. You can begin the journey to a whole new understanding. And listen, I know that it seems not feasible, because as you're listening to this right now, you're like, these people talk and they don't understand how bad it is and what I'm dealing with here. I'm talking about, level 10 crazy, right? And there's no way that things could change, right? I have to estrange myself from them. I have to protect myself because it's so bad. I get it. But there is another reality, and it doesn't seem like it's even feasible. But if you begin the work, you begin the journey, you'll find the shift. And I know it doesn't seem possible, but I can tell you it is more often than not.
And it's really very, very exciting, actually. So that's why I said, if you got the guts for it, get started. And before you know it, your life will be absolutely different. I think that's the number one thing that people say to us. I just feel like a different person. And you will be, because your automated responses, your gut reactions, the way you react and respond without even thinking about it, that is shifted. And that really means you are new. You're fully and totally reconstructed and free to build the life of your dreams. Well, thanks so much for this, Bill. And we'll share some more with you guys soon, keeping you in the loop about our conversations. And we hope to see you very soon at a Cognomovement event. If so, we know that you're the kind of person who really is ready to create a completely different life for themselves. And we believe everybody who does this contributes in changing the planet. So there's just that.